Hello. Good. We are together. You're welcome to the room. Very, very amazing session today. I hope you're all fine. Just make sure that all of us are fine. We're just starting with one announcement. As you can see behind there are some very nice tables. So the announcement that we have now is that it is illegal to sit this side before you have visited the other tables. So first go behind, pick something, and then you come and you sit and we start. We are starting in the next 5 minutes. So if you could first go behind, pick something to bite so that you don't get affected by too much English when we start dealing with the numbers and the results of the research. So please go behind, pick something to eat and drink, come back, take your seat, and then we start the action. Thank you very much. Let's stay with this one. Okay, I want to believe that whoever wanted to pick something from behind has. Just in case you have not, just to inform you that the table is still open. Please go pick something so that we can move comfortably while we're in the room. Given that very many of us are educationists in this room, you know the rules of classroom control. You do not speak unless the class is. So I'll just have the room stabilized and then we can start. Okay, so good afternoon once again. Good afternoon, people. Good afternoon, people. Good. I believe you can see me and hear me. I just wanted to welcome you once again to the room and thank you for making the time for this very wonderful launch that I'm very sure will feed a lot into the education space today and going forward. So I just want to let you know that we are officially starting. My name is Modern Karema. I work with Star Education as the Uganda Country Director, and I sit on the board of Really. Really is that logo that you're seeing on many of these, the things that are standing. I don't know what they are called. Brochures or whatever it is. Today, I'll be your MC working with my sister Farida. Farida will be coming in later on. And so I wanted to, first of all, confirm that we're all in the right place. So the thing that is going to take place here is a launch event. You know, there are so many events in this hotel, so you might be seated in the wrong event. So the thing that is going to happen here, Uwezo has done some very amazing research. That is not me. That one is not me. The DJ was just trying to confirm that I'm still. Just trying to confirm that we are together. So I was saying that the reason why we are here is that Uwezo Uganda is going from that we have been for some time now. And so if you know that you're not here to listen to research results, discuss research results, there's a chance that there is another event happening in here where you should be. So that's why we are here. And I think it comes from the background of historically, the Ministry of Education, which is well represented here, you not moving to the instructions now, but I will do that, has done great work in especially increasing on the access to education. Hello? But to use what the minister once said, from when UPE was introduced, the number of children coming to school, both in primary and secondary, have swing. And because the number of children have swing, also by implication, the number of teachers have also swing. Now, the question is, with the number of learners increasing and the number of teachers increasing, does that necessarily mean that the quality of learning also increased or improved? And so I believe that by the time we are done with the next 1.5 hours, we'll be having the question or the answer to the question on not just the equity, education equity, which is mainly where access would feed, but we also have answers to the question of education quality. Because the question of our children learning fits into the question of education quality. And so we'll be getting answers to that question by the time we are done with this session in the next 2.5 hours. And so with that, I want to welcome all of you and thank you for making the time for being here. I can see so many wonderful people. I don't want to introduce them. Further, I will do that. I just want to straight away move into the start. We'll start with the anthems, the Uganda national anthem and the East African anthem. And then after that, we'll do a prayer and then move into the introductions by Farida. So DJ, if you're around, just give me the anthems and we will of course stand and do the anthems. The DJ was testing if we are with him. So 1, 2, 3, DJ, please, we go. We lay our future in thy hands. United, free for liberty, together we'll all stand. Uganda, the land of freedom, our love and labor we give, and with neighbors all at our country's calling, peace and friendship we live. O Uganda, the land that feeds us by sun and fertile soils grown. For our own dear land, we will all stand the pearl of Africa's crown. Now I know those who attended their primary and village schools like me, who know the full anthem, all the 3 stanzas. Please give us the East African anthem. Thank you very much. Well, Ugandans, that is the best we can go. 1 stanza, we are good. We'll keep standing, please. I'll call upon Haji Sulaiman Walgendo to lead us in a prayer as we start this event.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most powerful, we thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for enabling us to come here to attend the launch of this report. We thank you for the food you have given to those people who are not fasting because of one reason or the other. Allah, we pray that those who are fasting, reward them today. We thank you, Allah, that we thank you for the effort you gave Uwezo and the partners to implement the big question of that are our children learning? The work was accomplished. Today we are launching the report. Accept it, bless it, so that whatever comes out of the report is for the benefit of the country. Give us energy and wisdom to understand the report, and also resources to implement the findings from the report. Prevent us from poverty so that we can implement the project in a good way. We pray all this in the name of Allah. Amen.
Now take your seats. You know, for the whole of this month, the Muslims are closer to God than some of us. So we had to have Hajj lead us in opening the event. So you're all welcome. And I will now pass the mic to my sister to start us off with the introductions and then lead us to the next part of the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Modan. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I hope we are all well. My name is Farida Nasereka. I work for Uwezo Uganda. I'm delighted to be here and engaging with you today. I think it's a great day. A lot goes into the work that we do, especially on my side. Coming to realize that today we are seeing the fruition of the assessments that we do gives us so much joy. So please welcome and join us in celebrating this moment. And as I welcome all of you, I would also like to recognize the presence of our online colleagues who are also joining in. They've been unable to join us physically here, but we have an audience bigger than this that is joining in the event online. So a hand clap for those who are unable to be here, but also for yourselves for making the time to join us today. We are really grateful for the time you've committed to give us. And as we carry on with the program, which is on our tables, the online audience, we shall be briefing you step by step on the procedures we'll be taking for today's event. But in the room, we would like to recognize the presence of our chief guest, Dr. Cleophas Mugenyi, representing the State Minister for Education, who has been unable to join us, but has delegated. Dr. Mugenyi, you're very welcome. We would also like to recognize the presence of the Uwezo board, represented by the board chair, Professor Albert Lutalo Bosa. We would also want to recognize presence of other board members in the room, Mr. James Muwonge. Thank you very much for joining us, as well as the Technical Advisory Committee of Uwezo. These honestly give us the courage, the wisdom, the technical expertise to carry on and do the work that we do. We have in the room Mr. Patrick Kaboyo and Dr. Apologies, Mr. Dan Chagaba. He's a doctor in making. I really want to bless you with that. Thank you very much for joining us today. And other TAC members and board members who are also joining in online. We really recognize your presence and appreciate the fact that you've been able to give us the time this afternoon. We would also like to recognize the presence of our academic partners represented by Chambogo University and Mutesa Royal University. We have two deans from the School of Education, Dr. Naba Chibi and Professor William Kasule. Thank you so much for joining us. The academics is a good consumer of our data because we know as we move this journey of informing and disseminating findings about how children are learning, they are part of the process that actually ensures that there is not only local but also global knowledge and awareness about learning outcomes. So thank you very much for joining us. We also have in the room our partners with whom we cannot do this work unless we are together in this collaborative. We have the Regional Education Learning Initiative represented by its board here. We do have member organizations who belong to the Regional Education Learning Initiative. And you see that as Uwezo, we are also part of RELI, but we are a bigger partnership that is moving towards seeing that children are learning and actually realizing their potential. So join me in welcoming STAR Education. We have Peas in the room. We do have Fitch, Uganda Society for Disabled Children. We also have Kukuza Foundation. And we also have the Rally country coordinator in the room with us, Mr. Sebule. We are really grateful that you've been able to make time this afternoon. Again, there's another category of partners with whom which we cannot do the work that we do. They hold our hand at the district level. These help us do the coordination, all the preparations for the assessment to be done, reaching out to all the sampled enumeration areas of villages, ensuring that teams are on ground to be able to collect the data, to be able to assess the children. So district partner organizations for Uwezo, both online and physically here, we appreciate your time. We have in the room partners from Kabale, we have from Oyam, we have from Namutumba, we have Bujiri, Mukono, and we are so grateful. I am sure all the rest online who have been unable to join us physically are also appreciative of the fact that they are seeing the fruits of their hard work coming to yield. Thank you very much for joining in. We also have other audiences we engage with in the room. We have district officials. We know this plan for education in the district, and they are very key to consuming our results and knowing what is needed to be able to deal with the things we are going to be seeing, how the children are learning, why they are not learning, what the pictures are like in the schools. These are people who consume the data, but also are able to plan for us at the district level. We want to appreciate the presence of the Oyam District Education Officer. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. We also want to recognize that we have parents. Without them, we cannot penetrate the homes in which we do the assessment. We gladly welcome a parent representative from Namutumba district. And of course, all of us are parents here. I'm sure we handhold children as we progress on the journey of enabling them learn. We are also recognizing that we have children in the room. They are the core reason we are here. The reason why we trail and trek all the villages to be able to engage with them, assess them so that we know what the status of learning is. And without them, we cannot conduct the assessment. So for the children and parents who appreciated the process and enabled us have access to your homes, we are really very grateful. We also have the media. Otherwise, we'd be talking to ourselves. The issues about dissemination cannot be done without the media. They are our voice out there. They represent the parents. They represent all of us in the journey of improving learning outcomes. We appreciate you. We also appreciate from the online audience, bigger networks with whom which we do the work that we do. We have partners from Uwezo, Tanzania, who do exactly what we do in Uganda. And we have been walking the journey with them since we started conducting the Uwezo learning assessments. We have the PAL network, which brings together over 15 member countries conducting citizen-led assessments in the global south. We all face similar challenges regarding education and learning. So the PAL network brings us together to be able to amplify the voice of foundational learning and foundational literacy and numeracy, especially in the global south, so that our voice and approach towards measuring foundational learning can be steered forward. We also appreciate the presence of Twaweza East Africa. We have a very long history with Twaweza, our mother organization. We appreciate the fact that they've been able to join us online as we take steps further to progress with the work that we journeyed together. We also have partners online, Uwezo partners. We also have the presence of good funders who cannot actually be without us every time we do these activities. They give us the resources to be able to do the work that we do. We have a Kidna Giving, represented by Dr. Sarah Ruto, with whom we also have a very long history. We also have the Luigi team, also part of the Rally organizations, and Zizi Afrique Foundation, with whom we also deepen the questions around learning and are able to actually deal with issues beyond just learning, but also the outcomes of learning. We also want to recognize the presence of UNICEF, and another partner with whom we do the work around improvements of education. I want to thank you very much, both online and members physically here, for making the time to join us today. And without further ado, and according to the program that we have, I would like to then invite our chairperson for the board, Professor James Albert Lutalo-Bosa, to give us a few remarks before we proceed with the program. Thank you very much, Professor. Sorry, a minute.
Oh, yeah, I see. Okay, that's fine. But, yeah, oh, thank you. The Honorable Minister for Education, primarily, Honorable Dr. Moriku Joyce Kaduchu, represented by Dr. Mugenyi, Commissioner for Basic Education, the Executive Director of Uwezo, Dr. Mary Goret Nakabugo, the Honorable James Kweketiria, the Chairman of the Education Committee in Parliament, government representatives who are here present, as mentioned by Farida, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. I will start with an apology. I have got an allergy, and therefore my voice tends to fail sometimes. But let me hope that I can make my remarks without any difficulty. Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of Uwezo Uganda management and the board, I welcome you all to the launch of the 10th assessment report running on the theme Children Learning, Learning Recovery, and Challenges in Uganda. Uwezo Uganda, we are pleased that you are here to listen to us, to listen or to share with you what we have been doing over the time. Uwezo Uganda has been an independent organization since 2019. But before that, the assessments were conducted by Uwezo as a program at Twaweza, East Africa. Uwezo is a Swahili word meaning capability. And definitely you can see how it is related to Twaweza because we can actually do it. Uwezo Uganda is a member of the People's Action for Learning PAL network, as mentioned by Florida, a South-South partnership of 17 member organizations working to promote children's fundamental learning across Africa, Asia, and America. PAL network members conduct citizen-led assessment and learning interventions programs aimed at improving learning outcomes. The beauty of this approach is we interact with the members of the community. And as you all remember, when we started the education reform in Uganda, one of the major recommendations of the report, the Kajubi report of 1992, was that learners must be given support. And our observations are that this kind of interaction with the communities has enhanced that support, which is very essential for the learning of the children. While this approach retains the major features of national assessments, we incorporate some improvements and some new ideas of inquiry in this national assessment. With the national assessments of literacy and numeracy as a core activity, Uwezo Uganda engages in various other assessments, such as assessments of skills and values, research, engagement as influencing in support of quality education for all. If you remember, when we embarked on the education reform, the focus was quality of education. And you know, quality is very, very complex, because when you talk of quality, the inputs are multiple. It's not one input that can enable you to achieve quality. And if you recall, the government made massive inputs in attacking the issue of quality in education. They looked at infrastructure, classrooms, structures like furniture and other learning and teaching material. All these were done, and the pertinent question is, what impact did this make on the quality education? And therefore, when we're looking at the learning of the learners, these learners, we have that in mind. Did this make any impact? And we're trying to find out that in some cases, the impact is not as obvious, but we shall continue to see how we can follow this trend. This report we are going to receive today represents the latest of a series of Uwezo national learning assessments of children's basic reading and numeracy skills in Uganda. Carried out since 2010. The assessment was conducted in July, August of last year, using the same methods and previous present assessments to a large extent, but with an improved method of classifying numeracy levels and with close attention to the outcomes of different kinds of numeracy assessment. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude my remarks, I would like to express my gratitude to Uwezo Uganda management and staff, as well as our valued partners, including the CBOs, national and local government departments, and agencies for the invaluable support extended to us that made this work possible. We are confident that the recommendations will go a long way in improving learning outcomes for the children of Uganda. We look forward to working closely together with the fast track report with the first track of the recommendations so that for the good of the Ugandan children, we will be able to achieve the desired end. I wish you all the best in your endeavors and journey. Mercies. I thank you.
I think that wasn't enough, please. Yeah, that's better. Prof. Uganda is one of the legends in education in this country. So really, when he speaks, you need to give him an applause. He has been here longer than most of us. Thank you very much, Prof, for the wonderful opening remarks that now take us to the gist of the launch. But before I call on Goretti to do the honors, I want to introduce two wonderful people that joined us along the way. The first one is Rosemary Ranyange of UNICEF. I'm told she's around. Yes, she's just there. Our partner from UNICEF. And then, of course, the Honorable James Kuweketeria is the chair of the Education Committee of Parliament. We are very happy to have you in the room. Thank you very much. And so with that, we'll just go straight to the next part, which is the main thing. Once you attend this one, then you will know where the country is and where the country is going when it comes to learning. Not teaching, not attending, but learning. And so with that, I pass on the mic to Goretti Nakabugo, Lady Uwezo. Take us on for the next part. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Modern, the State Minister for Primary Education, represented by our dear Commissioner, Dr. Cleophas Mugenyi here, the Chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Education, Honorable James Kuweketeria, the board chair, other board members, other dignitaries from different government agencies, and all of you distinguished guests. Thank you so much for coming to this launch. We recognize also, our colleagues who are connecting online. Thank you very much for creating this time. So my name is Mary Goretti Nakabugo, working with Uwezo Uganda. And it's really my greatest honor to, on behalf of Uwezo Uganda, to present key highlights of the 2024 National Learning Assessment. We call them key highlights because as you read in the report, it is pretty loaded. There are so many issues that we talk about. This is just to give us a starter to start engaging with the findings of the report. So yes, we did conduct the learning assessment in 2024, July to August. It is the most recent assessment that we did, having carried recently 3 assessments at 3-year intervals. When we were just starting, as the chair of the board was introducing Uwezo, starting in 2010, we used to do these assessments every year. It was good to provide evidence to the system, but also it didn't provide much time to engage with the findings. So that is why we started just putting some intervals that you need also some time to engage with the findings before you go to do the assessments. So the last assessments were conducted in 2015, 2018, and 2021. We all know what happened in 2021. So our main aims for the report or for the assessment, one is to provide some kind of an overview of the statuses of children in the system in terms of the age, where are they, including those who are out of school. And our main focus is on children aged between 4 to 16 years. So you can see that we have a bit of the pre-primary and a big catchment for the primary education and a little bit of the lower secondary. We aim to assess the learning levels of children by grade, especially with a major focus of P3 to P7. In reading includes reading in English and local language, and then numeracy, really basic arithmetic. Also monitoring children's learning levels in reading and numeracy by age, because children should also be learning at the right age. We also use the data to kind of highlight some characteristics that have a bearing on learning outcomes. And those characteristics could be characteristics of individuals, households, schools, or even location, which could determine whether children in that location are learning or not. And you'll see some of the findings pointing to that. But we also kind of map and review resources and practices in primary schools. So basically we have been guided by these 5 aims over the years, but most especially for the 2024 assessment. And in terms of methodology, or even in terms of sample, we reached 29 districts in Uganda, which were geographically representative, and very many thanks to the Uganda Bureau of Statistics for supporting with the sampling. So the 29 districts were the same as the districts in which we did the learning assessment in 2021. And we did it deliberately, many thanks for the endorsement of the board and the Technical Advisory Committee, because we also wanted to generate some comparator data on, well, 2021, when we did the assessment, the system had almost shut down because of the COVID-19. We have done the assessment now in 2024 when the system is open. Are there any changes that could be, they may not be attributed, but maybe there's a slight indication that that things have changed since then, either for the good or for the bad. We do the assessment in partnership with district partner organizations, and Farida introduced them. We really appreciate you. We can't do this on our own. So we had 29 partner civil society organizations. Some of them are represented here. Oyamu, Bujiri, Namutumba. Please stand up. Yes, Kabale, and many are joining online. So thank you very much. Who then assisted us to recruit 839 citizen volunteers across the 29 districts, because in each of the districts, we reached 15 enumeration areas or villages. And in each of those villages, we recruited through the partners 2 volunteers, making 839 volunteers. 54 of these were men. Much as we really make a point to encourage women or girls to apply for these opportunities, we have never hit a 50% for volunteers. So this also tells us that there's still some work that we need to do with girls. Issues of assertiveness, do they actually look up for these opportunities, and so on. So we reached 8,608 households, assessing 21,057 children aged 4 to 16 years. And out of these, it's almost a balance between boys and girls. So 51% boys and 49% boys. We do the assessments at household level. They're household based. And one of the reasons why we do that is that, especially in disadvantaged communities, children quite often going to school on certain days. So if you do the assessment at school only, you are missing to meet children who may have missed school on that day, or those who dropped out, or those who never enrolled in school at all. And yet our assessment is also age-based, 4 to 16 years. So much as we do the assessment at household level, we also survey schools to capture the number 3 on the learning environment and resources in schools, but also to talk to the head teachers, and understand the conditions in which the children are learning. So here, this is one of our two of our citizen volunteers in Kamuli district assessing a child. We say we assess them at household level. And in terms to give an indication of the kind of, when it comes to the learning assessment, we do assess literacy in English and local language. A sample. So in 2024, we assessed in 12 districts, local language, and the local languages were Uganda, Nyankore Ruchiga, the Blango, and Rusoga. So it's difficult to assess in all districts. It has huge financial implications. And when it comes to the tool, for example, for reading, either English or local language, we start from the lowest, the easiest. For example, identification of letters, either the names or sounds, then word level, then sentence level, paragraph, and then the highest is the story. So what we have given here is the highest level of a story at P2 level, just 2 simple paragraphs and 2 comprehension questions. One of them is very factual. The answer is the story. The second one is the part. So and these tools or tasks are pitched at a primary 2 curriculum. That highest level, that is the primary 2 level. But when you go to the lowest, identification of letters of the alphabet, that is really also done in pre-primary. It is, yeah, so the highest is at primary 2 level. So you would expect that children in primary 3 upwards, they wouldn't have difficulties reading such a text. And the highest level for mathematics, again, at primary 2 level is the division, but we also start with the lowest of identifications of numbers, 0 to 99, then the 4 operations. And those 4 operations are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and the highest is division. So we would assume that a child in primary 3 upwards, up to P7, they should be able with ease to read this story of P2 level and comprehend it, but at the same time also do all the 4 operations up to division level. So when I'm presenting the findings, that is the background of the kind of tool that we use. And here are the findings. Here is the highlight of the key findings. We give some 5 facts out of the many that you will find in the report. 5 facts about children's learning in Uganda. And the first fact is that nationally, learning outcomes have stagnated or even regressed. Regressed is that they have dropped in some instances. And the stagnation here, what I want to highlight, it's not that they have stagnated at the highest level. They have actually stagnated at a very low level. So an example here, pupils or children who could read and comprehend a P2 level English, but also a local language, they're more or less at the same level. Whether it was English or local language, on average, 1 out of 10, if we assessed, for example, in every 10 children we assessed, 1 of them could read and comprehend that story, meaning that 9 out of 10 could actually not. And this was the case also in 2021. So this is why we are saying the learning outcomes have stagnated at that level. When it comes to the dropping, actually most of them, especially for languages, they have regressed. So if we look at on average between P3 and P7, the children in P3 and P7 who could read and comprehend a P2 level English story and do all the arithmetic questions, you saw the highest level of division. There's even no carrying. It's a single digit without carrying. So meaning that the lower operations are even much easier. So we take that a child who is able to do up to division, all the operations and read a story and comprehend it, they have reached the highest competence. They have actually acquired the foundations. So they will be able to even read more complex work. So that percentage of children dropped from like 30%, or in every 10 children assessed, 3 were able to do it in 2021. That has slightly dropped to 2 out of 10, meaning that you have 80% of children compared to 70% who are not able to read at this level. I'll take you to fact number 2 on learning, which is that learning outcomes have slightly, much as we have given that base that they have stagnated, they have regressed in some cases, but there are also some pockets of hope, of good progress, steady progress, where learning outcomes have slightly improved, especially in numeracy. It is also possible that because for a long time, we have put a lot of focus on literacy. So it's possible that in recent years, people have started making interventions in numeracy, but also, numeracy competences, research has indicated numeracy competences increase with age. So with COVID-19, quite a number of children stayed in the same classes. And at the moment, actually one of the biggest challenges, Honorable Minister of Education, that we have is an issue of overage children. Not really necessarily underage, they're also there, it's an issue, but overage are so many. But when it comes to mathematics, maybe it could be an advantage. Further research is needed in this area. So an example here is that for children between P3 and P7 who could do tasks involving all the 4 arithmetic operations, that percentage increased from 50%, or 5 out of 10 of every children assessed, to 6 out of 10. So you can see actually the learning outcomes in mathematics are not as bad as in literacy. So there are quite a number of other examples that we give here, and hope you can engage with the report to find those examples. The third fact that we provide on children's learning in Uganda based on the 2024 assessment is that few children are acquiring competences typically expected for their age. You remember we had the 2 aims, one related to assessing learning outcomes according to age or according to grade. So the fact 2 was about the grade or class. Now we are talking about the age. Say, for example, a child who is aged 10 years, if they progressed through primary education normally or smoothly, they should be at around P4, P5, right? Yes. So they would be expected to read. You remember that story? And the mathematics, they should be able to do those with ease. So those who could read and comprehend a picture level English story, as I showed, in 2024, it was 14.3%. So on every 100 children assessed, you have like 1.4 out of 10. So, and that is a drop from 15.8% in 2021. So again, even at age level, the learning outcomes have quite regressed. When it comes to learning outcomes, to local language, incidentally, colleagues, over the years, it's not only 2024, the learning outcomes for local languages have been lower than English. I think it also has to do with how teachers are trained to teach these languages, but also the materials or resources that are at the disposal of the children, and how much the system really invests in that subject. So for languages, children aged 10, the percentage dropped from 11.2% to 7.3% of those aged 10 years. So again, there is a regression here, and again, a regression from what? Because already learning outcomes were quite low already. Fact number 4 on children's learning in Uganda is that there are some signs of a gradual recovery from the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic. pandemic-related school closures. You remember one of the reasons why we went to the same districts in 2024, same to 2021, some villages, but the households were different. We listed the households and sampled afresh. So in fact, here it is the top one. I don't know how many of you have the findings. You can see pretty closely, but there are also, I think, handouts that have been given to you. If you look at fact number 4 of children's learning, facts about children's learning is that children aged 5 years, those are pre-primary really, although you find some in 5 years who are in primary, but this is an age of pre-primary. Children aged 5 who were able to recognize letters of the English alphabet. Remember, that was the lowest level in the English tool, but also local language. Local language, we start with the syllables. The percentage of children who could recognize with ease letters of alphabet increased from 20%, or 2 out of 10 of every 10 children assessed, to 3 out of 10 children being able to recognize letters of the alphabet. One thing that we would like to note is that children aged 5 years old in 2024, those kids, it's highly likely, if they had an opportunity, it's likely that they went to pre-primary because the school system had opened, right? But in 2020 and 2021, even if you had the resources, the school system had closed. So, and that takes us to fact number 2. The second bit of that fact 4 is that children in P3 who could read English above the word level. Above word level, it means that a child is able now to read sentences, a paragraph, and that other story. Those who could go above word level, that percentage actually dropped from 22.4% in 2021 to 18.5% in 2024. So there was a drop. And for us, well, maybe further research will need to be done. But one of the reasons is that the children in P3 in 2024, remember they had spent almost 2 years at home. And many of them, even if they were of pre-primary level, maybe top by that time, the school system had closed. But these ones of age 5, the school system had reopened. So they can easily, maybe that is why there's an improvement in how they can recognize the numbers. Unfortunately, yes, there is appetite for ECD. But our data indicates that I think the percentage of children access 3 to 4, children accessing ECD at the moment, it dropped from about 75.3% to 61.9%. So from 2020, 75.3 to 61.9%. Probably, and I think this could be an interest to us and the system, probably some preschools did not survive the COVID-19. It's possibly that actually they closed. And now that even when parents have the resources, probably they have nowhere to take the children. Again, this is another area which might need looking into. If I go very quickly to the next part of the findings, which is, it's about, okay, this is the 5th fact, which is that there are major variations in learning outcomes by region, sex of the child, and preschool experience. So, whereas girls consistently outperform boys, which is the case also at national level, in fact, in all regions, the girls outperformed both in reading and numeracy. But when it came to the northern region, actually, well, the percentage is small, 28% girls and 29% boys who could read words in English. But again, you can see that even when we say that girls are doing well, they are not homogeneous. In some regions, they are actually pretty underperforming their counterparts in other regions. Very quickly to take you just a scan through the 5 key facts on the context of learning in Uganda. I've already mentioned this, the challenge of overage learners in primary education. It persists and it has escalated since 2020. We cannot attribute the overage to COVID-19 only. It was really always a challenge. You'll see in the report when we compare 2020 to 2024. An example here is that in 2020, we had about 13% 14-year-olds who had reached P7. 13% 14-year-olds who had reached P7. Surely in P7, a 14-year-old should be around maybe senior 1. That is P7, but we have only 13% in 2020, and that percentage has now dropped. By 2024, it had dropped to 10%. The other fact we wanted to highlight here is that there are extreme constraints in staffing levels and school resources by school type and region. So we find there's a big difference between pupil-teacher ratio in government-aided schools and then pupil-teacher ratio in private schools. Nationally, we're talking about in a government school, 1 single teacher on average. People will say that, oh yeah, you know, in my district, teachers are teaching even 200 children. But this is on average, national average. So if a government-aided teacher is teaching 52 children, as opposed to 21 children in a private school. So there are variations, for example, according to school type. But also it varies according to regions. If you look at the example that we have given there, a pupil-teacher ratio in the northern region is 79 children to 1 teacher, compared to 34 children to 1 teacher in the central region. So, but one of the reasons, by the way, here, we found that 51.7% teachers who teach in government-aided schools in the central region, they're actually paid from fees paid by teachers, PTA, not government salaries. So they are able to supplement the few teachers that government is able to pay. That could explain why the pupil-teacher ratio is pretty lower compared to other regions who may not have those resources to employ additional teachers. Fact number 3 is on key management and governance bodies are in place in most primary schools, but improvements are needed in some aspects, especially the inclusion of women. So good news is that actually, for example, the statutory school management committees in government schools, almost 99%, the committees were there. In private schools, 98%. PTAs, much as they are not statutory, 95% government schools had them, and 61% private schools had them. But when it comes to the involvement of women on these committees, the story is different. On average, we found that every school management committee in government-aided schools, they had at least 12 members. The one that is approved is 13 members, but we are close. We are close to get. But out of those 12, on average, 4 were women. In terms of chairpersons, there was 13.7% chairpersons of school management committees who were women. When it comes to head teachers, 31% were women. And when one thing that we also wanted to highlight here, we probed into the appointment status of the head teachers. 31% were found to be in acting capacity. Second last is that nurturing values and life skills as part of children's early learning is equally important. It should be part of foundational learning, really. One of the questions that we asked was, we asked head teachers and teachers of primary 2, whom we interacted with, but to talk generally on the environment in the school. What is the common indisciplinary type of discipline that is common in this school, which requires disciplinary measures? And you will be surprised to note that stealing was reported in 48% of the surveyed schools as one of the common types of child indiscipline. The other indiscipline cases included escaping from school, dishonesty, fighting, violence, telling lies. All these are issues to do with values, right? So, so maybe we shouldn't just strive to teach literacy and numeracy, because literacy and numeracy without values and some fundamental skills may not be of much help in the long term. Fact number 5 is that corporal punishment is still widely used in primary schools. This somehow relates to fact number 4, where we asked about the disciplinary cases, which call for disciplinary measures. We also asked about the common disciplinary measures that they use. And there were quite a number of them, giving warning letters and so on, detention. But we found that 70% of the schools reported using corporal punishment, either or in most cases or sometimes. But also in households, 85%, the parents reported using corporal punishment. So it's very difficult to get rid of corporal punishment in schools when it's actually highly favored in households. Maybe the parents even encourage it in schools. So in conclusion, really, we hope that the findings trigger some kind of policy and practice changes within the system, because as we have seen, the learning outcomes, really, we still have a long way to go. And we have given some 9 conclusions and recommendations, ranging from continued prioritizations of efforts to improve foundational learning. You saw, I think this, I don't have to overemphasize it. Then support for catch-up programs that help learners left behind are very important, because if you have children in P3 to P7 who cannot read at primary 2 level, then if you teach them content of P4, P5, they won't really catch up because they don't have the fundamentals. So we recognize some of our colleagues who are implementing these catch-up programs. Fitch is one of them. I know VVOB is online, and I think Building Tomorrow, and others. Please continue that effort. And I hope government and other partners support such efforts, because we have so many kids in the system who are being left behind. Others, including boost provision for local language teaching. We realize that some languages are really, really fundamentally undertaught, but maybe badly taught. Say, for example, for children who have a full competence, who are able to read a story and comprehend it in a local language, we found that for Lusoga, P3 to P7 children, only 7.3% could read and comprehend, compared to like 30.5% for Uganda. Even 30.5% is very low. It's below average, but it's even lowest in other regions. Leblango, it was 10.5%, Runyankore, 29.2%, and so on. So these recommendations are well elaborated in the report. In the interest of time, I won't go through them, but we call upon all stakeholders, starting with government, because it is our mother ministry, and government has the opportunity of reaching scale to ensure that every child benefits, but also other stakeholders, civil society, universities, development partners. This is the time to ensure that our children are in school and they are learning, especially these foundations are critical. They are very critical, because if they can't read, they can't learn. They can't learn other subject areas. So thank you very much for listening to me. You can access our reports, including the one that is going to be launched today. You can access it immediately after it has been launched on those there, but also our data sets are open source. So academics, other researchers, you can use them. And we thank very much the Ministry of Education for the support, our funders, the board, district partners, and everyone who has been already acknowledged. Thank you very much for supporting the learning of children through the work that we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Goretti. Another round of applause. That was really excellently presented. And Dr. Goretti, please do not go back to the seats. We need to unveil this report. We need to hand it over to the minister to officially launch it. As a key consumer of the data, the ministry is in charge of planning for our children. And I would like to also welcome Professor Lutalo Bosa. Professor, please join Dr. Nakabuko in handing over the reports to and the chairperson of the Parliamentary Commission for Education, Honorable Venus. Honorable Kube Keteria. Thank you very much. Please join the representative of the minister to receive the report. Please, the report is on the way to be unveiled. We welcome it. Can all of us stand to honor the findings?
I think, ladies and gentlemen, you may take your seats. Please resume your seats. The chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Education and Sports, Honorable Kubereketia, the chairperson of the Uwezo board and members of the Technical Advisory Committee of Uwezo and the management of Uwezo Uganda, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Cleophas Mugenyi. I'm here to represent Honorable Dr. Joyce Moriku Kaduchu, who is unable to be with us due to other commitments. And allow me to read her speech verbatim, just like the way they do it in the church. Because at the end of the day, the reader says, this is the word of the God of the Lord. It does not say these are my words. I'm pleased to officiate at the launch of the Uwezo Uganda 2024 National Learning Assessment Report. I bring you warm greetings from Mama, the First Lady and the Minister of Education and Sports. She's very much aware of this great event and appreciates the great work Uwezo is doing to support the Ministry of Education and Sports. We thank the Almighty God who has enabled us to gather here today on this day. On behalf of the Ministry of Education and Sports, I wish to congratulate Uwezo Uganda upon the launch of yet another assessment report running on the theme, Are Children Learning, Learning Recovery and Challenges for Uganda. The Ministry of Education and Sports from the Uwezo assessments, and these have guided and shaped our policy framework and the strategic direction on all matters regarding basic education to ensure equity, quality, relevance, and efficiency. Welcome the latest insights from the assessment that highlight children's learning outcome and spotlight how the sector is gradually recovering from the gross effects of COVID-19 pandemic and the school closures. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Education and other ministry departments and agencies, has made steady progress in supporting the education and sports sector, the challenges notwithstanding. The government of Uganda recognizes the pivotal role education plays in facilitating the realization of the national development agenda articulated in the third National Development Plan, the National Resistance Movement Manifesto, and the Vision 2040. It takes cognizance of the prevailing strategic bottlenecks in realizing access to quality education beyond enrollment occasioned by introduction of universal primary education and universal secondary education. Specifically focusing on quality, quality has been identified as a key issue in creating a critical mass of adequately skilled labor force to actualize Uganda's demographic dividend. To achieve this, government has focused on strategic interventions that increase the relevance of education and the training through, among others, undertaking reforms such as the review of the lower secondary school curriculum, strengthening inspection and regulation function, and improving the management capacity at all levels. Other initiatives are focused on enhancing teacher professional development, promoting community engagement, increasing and improving infrastructure, and ensuring better resource utilization. In the same spirit, Mama, the First Lady and the Minister of Education and Sports, Honorable Janet Kataha Museveni, constituted the Education Policy Review Commission, which commenced operations in 2021. The mandate of the commission was to inquire into the effectiveness and relevancy of education to the achievement of the education needs of users and goals of government. I'm happy to inform you that the commission has published its report recommendations that are geared towards changing the education structure to ensure that learners get the best out of the schooling system. This report can be accessed on the Ministry of Education and Sports website. I'm happy to learn that the Uwezo evidence shows a gradual recovery from the effects of the long school closures during the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020 and 2021. I'm also pleased to learn that the primary enrollment has made an impressive recovery with significant improvements in the lower primary age group, with fewer in the non-reader and the non-numerator category. I commend the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Education and Sports and the enrollment partners for demonstrating resilience that has enabled us to adapt teaching and learning approaches while ensuring that our children remain safe and healthy. The improvements registered in lower primary age group only affirm the renewed government commitment providing a policy and regulatory framework to support early childhood care and education. As you are all aware, the government recently launched the new ECC policy that meets the needs and aspirations of Ugandans in the 21st century. I'm very hopeful that now we have the early childhood care and education policy in place. The gains so far attained will not only be sustained, but also consolidated. We as government are concerned about the learning outcomes that have stagnated and in some instances regressed, as you heard from the presentation by Dr. Nakabugo. For example, the report notes that in P7, the percentage of children who have not yet achieved the P2 level competence in English more than doubled from 11.3% in 2021 to 23.2% in 2024. And the percentage that had reached it in the local language reduced from 68% in 2021 to 51.1% in 2024. The government remains committed to prioritizing teacher training and continuous professional development in line with the national teacher policy to improve teaching and learning in our schools. I take a note that a few children are acquiring competencies typically expected of their age. For example, 14.3% of children aged 10 could not read and comprehend a P2 level English story in 2024, down from 15.8% of the children aged 10 who could do so in 2021. We understand that this is partly explained by the school closures that left over-aged learners who had missed out on the 2 years of schooling. We will continue to work with all stakeholders to explore catch-up programs that can enable learners to acquire these competencies. The variations in learning outcomes by region and gender are a concern to all of us. For example, 61% of children aged 4 to 16 years assessed in Central Region, 46 in Western Region, 34 in Eastern Region, and 29 Northern Region were able to read word level in English. The government is committed to ensuring equitable access to quality education through the UP program. And of course, now with the ECC policy in place, government will ensure that ECD services are also extended to public schools. The Ministry of Education and Sports is aware of the impact occasioned by limited resources available to finance public education, including staffing and other resources for primary schools as recommended in the current report of 2024, but this was also reflected in the previous reports. Government is committed to improving the situation in the coming financial years by directing the limited resources to where we can leverage on the most affected, especially in the areas of teacher training, continuous professional development, and early childhood care and education. We all need to note that the task of national economic recovery from the effects of COVID-19 pandemic has been challenging and ultimately explains the low progress in implementing the recommendations of the previous Uwezo reports. However, I'm happy to mention that the Human Capital Development Program remains a core priority of the government of Uganda. We are pleased to learn that though improvements are still needed in some respects, key management and the governance structures are in place in all primary schools in the country through the statutory school management committees and the non-statutory parents teachers associations. The ministry is committed to enhancing the effectiveness and efficiency of these structures for quality assurance and to foster community and parental engagement in children's learning. Ensuring the effectiveness of these structures can also go a long way in solving other persistent challenges highlighted in the report, like the use of corporal punishments that go against the government policy and undermine our efforts to prevent violence against children in our schools. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, invited guests, as I conclude, I would like to express my sincere appreciation and gratitude to the board and the management of Uwezo Uganda for your unwavering dedication to improving children's learning outcomes through periodic learning assessment reports. We are also grateful to all the development partners that have supported Uwezo Uganda over the years to produce these assessment reports. We look forward to working closely together to fast track the report recommendations for the good of the Ugandan children. May God continue to bless us, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors. For God and my country, Honorable Dr. Joyce Moriko-Kaduchu, State Minister for Primary Education and the Woman MP, Moyo District. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for those remarks. Those were the remarks of the Honorable Minister for State for Primary Education, Dr. Kaduchu, represented by our Commissioner, Dr. Cleophas. So thank you very much for those wonderful remarks. So after the report was presented by Dr. Goretti and after its launch, now we can talk. Because otherwise, if it's not launched, we have nothing to discuss. Now it has been launched. Now it has been, presented and launched by the minister. Now we can discuss what it's all about. And so we'll be moving to the next part, which is the discussion, the conversation. But before that, I wanted to recognize some people that came in along the way. One of them is my elder brother, Mr. Philbert Waguma. Philbert is, most of you know him, everybody in education. Yonatu, Secretary General, very much welcome. The other one is Mr. Abdul Malik Mwanga from the Ministry of Education. It's just there. The other one is Dr. Nachum Letitia from the Uganda Kingdom, just here. The other one is Dr. Yakutaga Beatrice from the Education Service Commission. She's just there. You're very, very welcome. Mr. Charles Drakabo from UNESCO. Yes, I saw him there. Thank you very much for coming. Very much representing UNESCO in these rooms. And then online, we have a number of organizations. Reading Association of Uganda, I know you're hearing. Thank you very much for making it. Usawa Agenda, thank you for making it. EZA, thank you for making it. Power Teachers Africa online, thank you very much for your time and for staying online and following these conversations. So, with the report presented and the report launched, the next part of today is having a conversation around what we have had. And who is better placed to lead that discussion than a legend in the media? And so it's my pleasure to call upon Simon Peter Kagwanjala from NBS and Next Media to lead us through this conversation on, after all that we have had, our children learning. Over to you, Simon Peter. Please welcome him.
I thank you very much. Modern, indeed, you're very modern in your MC. And a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The real conversation is here. I was raised never to repeat protocol. Once the names, the big names have been mentioned, the rest is ladies and gentlemen. We are all stakeholders in this, and we intend to run through this with very honest opinion. For starters, can we put a round of applause for Uwezo for such a thought-provoking report? We want to thank you. Let me have the pleasure now to invite our panelists. Unlike the usual, this time we are going to have just a few minutes to solicit your view on the key findings, because the report is voluminous and I believe you will need more time to internalize it. So you will just share with us 3-4 minutes of what you think about this report. Our choice is quite diverse. We brought in politicians in a very special way. I want to welcome Honorable, and I believe for this you'll gift me. I'll be the first person to pronounce your name right. Yes, we shorten it with Kube. Honorable Kube, thank you for joining us. In a special way still, in the same vein, allow me to welcome a representative from the Ministry of Education and Sports. I believe this time it will be the representative of the minister, Dr. Cleophas Mugenyi. You'll come and join the panel. I'll also welcome Mr. David Adea, District Education Officer, Oyam District. Please stand up for recognition. In the same vein, I'll also welcome Mr. Niwamanya Gerald, a teacher at Kavu Primary School in Kabale District. Thank you for coming. Miss Katamba Petwa, a parent from Namutumba District. Miss Namugenyi Merina, this is the most distinguished panelist. She's a pupil from Victor's Junior School, Mukono District. I envy you. Please stand up for recognition. I want to be like you when I grow up. Thank you. We are going to run through very fast. I know you've listened and watched a bit of what Dr. Great has presented to us. I'll just give each of you 3-4 minutes to share with us your view without even diving into what, where, when, but just give us what you think about the report. I'll start with you, Mama, as a parent.
Thank you very much, sir. We thank the Uwezo program, thank the Ministry of Education and the government at large. My view is that this program of Uwezo encouraging the reading and numeracy in schools is very good, and it is going to uplift the standards of education in our children. Then the training of teachers, because when teachers know what they are doing, they can do good work. Then the exploring of the learning process of children is also good, because they will know the difficulties and possibilities for these children. Then quality education is also important. Whenever we meet like this, and if you don't have quality education, you are of low level. Then being aware of challenges amongst the children, the learning group. Then the improving of this lower primary 3 to 4 years is still very low in most especially in primary schools, government aided primary schools. Some schools have not started that program. Then in the funders, we thank you very much, and we continue asking for that help such that the work can go on well. There is need for more research for this good, the learning situation is the structures in schools are still very low. Some schools are studying under trees, and some children go barefooted. When it rains, the coldness affects their learning. Then the parent-teacher relationship also needs to be sensitized. Some parents, we hate teachers for no reason. Yet they are doing good work, yet they are doing this, but that relationship there matters. So I think that is what I have tried to cover. Thank you very much.
A round of applause. Hearing from a mother and a parent warms up my heart. Thank you, Mama. Now, another central person in the education sector is the teacher. Teacher, are you guilty?
Thank you, sir. Once again, Gerard Nwamanya, a teacher at Cove Primary School, and is found in Kabare District. According to the findings they have shown us here, I noted the following. The problem that was discovered in numeracy, especially in addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, it has been brought about by very many reasons. Number one, there are low levels of learning in these children, especially previously when the pre-primary education was not yet introduced in primary schools. According to the findings, you see, in each and every year, the percentage of reading, writing, and numeracy in children is quite improving. Reason, the pre-primary education has started, and this has tried to train these children such that by the time they are starting their primary section, they are at least conversant about what they are going to learn. Then there is a problem of automatic promotion. I saw the madam from Uwezo, where she said that the research has been found out that the learners at the age of 10, they are unable to divide 6 by 2, 8 by 4. One of the reasons is automatic promotion. Forcing a child to join in another class when he or she doesn't understand the content of the previous class. Then there is a problem of limited number of teachers, understaffing in these government aided schools. The teacher-pupil relationship, really what the government is trying to initiate in these schools is so alarming. You cannot teach 70 children in one class by one teacher. Most of the times you find out that few of them are going to achieve. Then the rest, little. Then there is lack of preparations by the teachers. Some of the teachers do not prepare their schemes of work, their lesson plans. They simply go to class and teach what they know without even making any research. This one has also let down our education levels, especially in these young children who need first to get taught these small things, teaching from known to unknown, from simple to complex. Then absenteeism. Absenteeism by both teachers and pupils. And of course, when you become absent and you are a teacher, you don't expect at the end of the day that your pupils will perform. So the underperformance in these pupils is brought about by both the pupils and teachers' absenteeism. When the teachers become absent and if the pupils become absent, at the end of the day, the performance levels will be still low. You gave us 4 minutes, and I had a lot to share, but
Thank you very much. You're the first teacher to finish the syllabus in time. Mr. DEO Oyam, where does the report pinch you hard?
Yeah, thank you very much. Adair David, the District Education Officer, Oyam. This report, I think, to me has opened up my mind because there are a number of things that I think I will go back and reflect again and see what I need to do differently. And two, there are also areas so that there are some slight improvements. But although there is also a lot of stagnation, as it is shown by the report. One area that pinched me a lot is mainly where they said nationally, learning outcomes have stagnated or regressed. And the evidence were given. I'll find in 2024, P3 pupils who could read and comprehend P2 level English and local language story is 1/10. If you pick 10 children, only one would be in position to read in 2021. And in 2024, it's the same story, which shows that we are not moving anywhere. And then another area which pinched me a lot is where in areas of arithmetics, of addition, multiplication, and subtraction. You'll find it has increased only by 1 since 2021. And now, when this program, when this assessment was done in 2024, it has only increased by 1 out of 10. Only 5 were able to do those simple arithmetics. And in 2024, only 6. That one also shows that we are not moving any further, and a lot has to be done differently. Then there is an area of staffing. That one also, I think, our country has to think differently. In northern Uganda, where I come from, one teacher is for 79 children. That one is generally. But from the district where I come from, Oyam district, one teacher is for 97 pupils. That is on average. But when you go to some schools in Oyam district, you'll find one teacher teaching over 150 pupils, which is so dangerous. Now, I was saying we need to do certain things differently if we are to come out of this. Because with this, it shows us that there is really learning crisis, which is already in our country. Although maybe in isolated districts, things might be going on in the right way, but in a number of districts where this assessment has been done, things are not good. Therefore, we need to do a lot of sensitization to our parents, because parental involvement will help us go a long way to improve on our performance. Like for the district where I come from, children, they get up in the morning and they go to school, and then they go back home around 6 o'clock without midday meals. And this should be provided by parents. Where I would like to give a very big challenge to our political leaders. When they go to solicit for votes, they should not just go telling parents anything. Don't pay anything. Don't pay. Government has already paid money in schools. But you'll find government in our primary school, government, ideally, they're supposed to pay 20,000 per year per child. But this financial year running, they've been paying 18,000. This 18,000 is per annum. So which means per term is 6,000. The 6,000, we have 89 days this term. So 89 days, 18,000, 6,000, you divide by 89 days, which means our teachers, our head teachers have to sustain our children using using 64 shillings if you're to use 18,000. But if they were given 20,000, they will use 75 shillings. Ideally, this cannot work. In an environment like in our northern region, where the mind of the parents is properly adulterated, that they are not supposed to pay anything because government has already paid money to schools. And these 75 shillings, even just toilet paper, you cannot buy. Because even though you multiply 75 times 5 days in the week, still you cannot buy toilet paper that a child can use in school. So I think government has to strategize and do certain things differently. And then two, there's issue of monitoring and supervision. Yes, monitoring and supervision. Our inspectors of schools are in problems. government at the moment now has put purchase of motorcycles and vehicles under ineligible expenditures for a number of years. But we have recruited inspectors who are supposed to go to schools and then supervise learning, teaching and learning. And they cannot reach those schools. And if you go to the disadvantaged districts like where we are, where inspector of school has to move over 25 kilometers to reach a school, it becomes very difficult with their budget that they struggle even to repair. So I think governments, this is their responsibility. If really we have to improve on learning outcomes, our inspectors of schools has to be facilitated. Teacher pupil ratio. In fact, in Uyam, if we are to, at the moment now, we have 1,511 teachers. But ideally, we are supposed to have 2,700 teachers. You can see the difference. So all that load this teacher is carrying. And that is why the teacher attrition rate is very high. A number of our teachers, they're moving out of the professions for other petty work like border riding and all those other things. And the death rate of our teachers also is very high. So even though you recruit, the number of teachers you are recruiting and the number of the teachers who are going out, the number of teachers going out is more than the number of teachers you are recruiting. And government says, no, we are recruiting. Like in Uyam, this financial year, we were given a slot of 10 teachers. But we are having a gap of over 700 teachers. So I don't know when this gap will be covered so that the teacher would really do the work and then learning outcome would also improve. I'd like to thank you so much. And thank also Uwezo for the data they collected, they analyzed, and now they have informed us, and we are aware of our status. And where me personally, as the district education officer, maybe I have not done my responsibility well. This is the task now given to me that I need to go and do it. And other stakeholders, we shall also talk to them so that they do their best. And government should also do theirs. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Brutally honest and mathematical. Thank you, thank you. Now, the key stakeholder, Lighton Salima Naguja. No, that's not your uniform. Namugenyi Merina, right? We were asking ourselves, are children learning? Are you learning?
I take this opportunity to thank you all and all those members representing different organizations and my organization as well. Children are learning. This is 2025. We are learning, but I encourage you to tell teachers that interpreting mathematical questions is very hard. Someone will bring a question whereby it is solve for y divided by 4 is equal to 3. And another paper in mid someone will bring, if Ashaba had oranges, she shared them to 4 boys, and each boy got 3 oranges. Find the number of oranges Ashaba had, whereby it is the same question as the one I said at first, but interpretation. In mathematics, we have interpretation of questions, language idea, If you don't have a language idea in P6 math, P7 math, it will be hard for you to pass PLE or pass P6 papers. But we are learning. People are learning. So for me, I'm learning to become like one of the great women here. Thank you. Those are my remarks.
Like someone says, problem. Yes, we are learning, but there is a lot of X, Y, Z, which doesn't add up, but we are learning. Honorable Beketeria, is this a political problem? Or the problem is elsewhere?
Thank you very much. If that question was asked to me at a political rally, I would answer it very rigorously. But now, it's about education. My name is Kubeketeria. If you want it shortened, Kubek, not Kube like I said. I chair the Committee on Education and Sports, and I represent Bunia County East, Nairobi District. Now, here, I must be forgiven because I always have bad words. So the moderator must excuse me. Now here, first of all, I would like to thank my former Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Lutalo Bossa. I'm also thanking Dr. Nakabuko who has presented. And I'd also like to recognize my former workmate, Dr. Yaptaga Yakis. Now, out of what we are looking at, you see, when you swim, you begin from shallow waters. So Uwezo has done it and started with the 29. We are 140 plus districts. So I would think that next time, if we handled like 50 districts, we'd have a clear picture. And then for regions, if we had a region or a district like Namutumba, is far near River Pologoma, you have gone to Marigania, Lake Victoria, and seen how those people behave. So it's not done. So if you picked 1 or 2, 3 schools per sub-region, it will be okay. So having looked at the presentation, of course, it has facts, and Dr. Mgenyi has no answers. Now, when it comes to that statement that we have stagnated from 2021, 2024, the learning has stagnated. I think that statement requires to be so much probably further, whether there has been improvement or not. So we have to probe that one. I won't have to make any comment, but something must be done. And also, first of all, we are looking at the number of many students, 150 per class. But the side of the story is, can we begin with these very few, for the few teachers who are around, can't we have better results? And the question goes back to Ladit from Oyam, that the inspectors, I'm told, and maybe we are to learn, these days inspect by appointment. You inspect by appointment saying we are coming there. Yet when I was growing up, when an inspector came to school, I saw teachers who did not have qualifications taking off. And that's what we call inspection. But here, I'm told they inspect by appointment. Save for the lack of facilitation. I think that one Dr. Mgenyi will have to answer. And I've been thinking aloud, who is to blame? Is it the pupil or the teacher for whatever results we are having? So the best would be that it cannot be entirely the pupil. Neither can it be the teacher. For me, I would think there is something wrong somewhere. Now, when it comes to recruitment, Dr. Byakutaga, your level is different. I wish that the recruitment would be done nationally. Those days, Mr. Kagwanjala, these people will come to training institutions and they interview you from there. By the time you finish, you're already a candidate, fit for deployment. But here, when it comes to the localized recruitment, a lot goes on. You get somebody who qualifies to be headmaster, totally, you cannot. And you get somebody who's riding a motorcycle 59 kilometers, but simply because he passed the interviews in quotes. So that the problem could be there. The choice and the distance. Serve for the other issue of food. I think this food is very necessary. That the feeding program, government to ensure there's an emphasis put on the self. Because these children virtually cannot go hungry and they think they will pick something from what they learn. That is my take in as far as that is concerned. Now, there was also something to do with the corporal punishment. I'm sure most of you are teachers here. We teachers are trained to punish. Psychology has, and I personally deviate from others. I would encourage real, well-organized corporal punishment. Kagwanjala is about to remove a microphone from me. The reason is we are trained how to punish. And the punishment is for a reason. The punishment is like a scarecrow for somebody to learn. While we're teaching in Musoga College in Mwiri, there are times that you said, instead of this person going, the punishment was go and work on a compound for a week. Then a senior six child would come and say, "How? This is wasting time. Why don't you just give me a few strokes and then I go to class and learn?" So you can see. So the issue of corporal punishment, I know, has its positivity. So the Minister of Education, the inspectors, it's a matter of training how these people should punish. And also, if you need to be let to headmaster, punish. And this battering of the children. Because somebody was relating it that because there's a match, something must be in society. Now, the one in society is very difficult. Whatever is happening at home where this kid is coming from, I think we as a school, we don't have any bearing. It is us to know, using our sociology, that if this kid has been battered at home, maybe, but for schools, some kind of mild punishment should be done. And Mr. Dr. Mgenya, I'm sorry for that, but that is real. I've talked about recruitment, and then the girls. When reading, she told us that the girls are out competing the boys, like it is even national examination. True. So what is the psychology? Professor Bosa, the psychology I was taught by some of your colleagues was that when it comes to reading, especially, and maybe communication, the younger girls communicate earlier because they're always with mothers in the kitchen, feeding and others. So for them, the articulation of words are proper. That's why when you get girls writing S's in Namagunga and Abisusa, that is how. So that is the whole psychology. So in a way, it is something that emanates from home. So when the girls are out competing the boys, you know the answer. So I wanted us to maybe also probe that further. So Dr. Kagwang Ngala, I don't have much to do with this, but the issue of accommodation, Dr. Mgeni look at it. The issue of food, but also on the other hand, somebody from Oyam, we must also reinvent the wheel. Inspection, the appointment is not inspection. As long as government will give the motorcycles, whatever, It is something that is lacking. I'm coming to inspect you. And I expect to find you there. Of course, you'll find me there, but there are other things. So that is something that we must work on. Then the ministry, when budgeting, I think the inspection is a serious matter that we must handle right from primary to second. It is a serious matter that will make others, because the teacher will go and teach, but if there is no proper inspection, eventually we shall have many people doing. With those many words and very annoying ones, I would like to stop there and congratulate Dr. Nakabuko for this report, Dr. Professor Bossa. So next time, the population sample should be increased from 29 districts, about 50 or 70. Then we have a clear picture. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kubeketeria. Calling me a doctor, I'm really humbled. Thank you. Dr. Mugenyi, are we speaking Latin or the things being raised are the ones you know, but perhaps you need to be awakened?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm now speaking on behalf of the Permanent Secretary, Dr. Kedres Tuyagenda, who has not been able to be with us. She received the invitation and directed that I present her. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy that this report has been presented to Ugandans. I don't see anybody here from Europe. All of us are Ugandans. If there are those who are not Ugandans, they are from Africa, especially those who have been online. I want to thank Dr. Nakabugo and the Uwezo family for this report. This report is speaking to us only one thing. All of us who have been invited here. The message is very simple. We still have work to do. That's it. We still have work to do. Sometimes when these reports are represented to us, we always tend to read from the book of Lamentations. But this report, at the end of it all, has recommendations. Maybe you should project them. Those recommendations like a reading from the book of Revelations. What do we need to do? What do we need to do? All these problems of inadequate teachers and resources, they are known to us. We are struggling to be a middle income country. Those of you who have been reading in the media are aware. Everybody knows that the UP capitation grant is inadequate. That is not news. The news is, how is it being used? How is that little money being used to ensure better learning outcomes? That is the issue. How can we, as stakeholders, focus on issues that don't need resources so that we can improve the learning achievements? Absenteeism. Do we need to give people money to be able to come to school? They are employed, teachers are employed by government. And when they receive the appointment letter, they accept to work according to the terms and the conditions of service. So the head teacher should be able to mobilize the teachers, the school management committee, the PTA, to make sure that we reduce absenteeism. So that is one of the causes of this poor performance. When the children are at school, the teachers are not there. Or when the children are at school, the teachers are not there. Or when the teachers are at school, the children are not there. How can we improve attendance of both teachers and learners. You cannot learn when you are hungry, ladies and gentlemen. That is a problem for all of us. Our children are not doing very well, partly because of lack of midday meals. They leave home when they have eaten nothing and spend the whole day at school when they have eaten nothing. The same thing may apply to some teachers in some schools. So a hungry teacher is teaching a hungry child. And then we are saying they are not learning. How do you expect hungry people to learn? Ladies and gentlemen, all the recommendations, what is required of us to do, all these issues are being captured in the various documents. If you look at the third National Development Plan, you look at the fourth National Development Plan, the Education Policy Review Commission came out with recommendations. And one of the recommendations is for government to fund 1 year of pre-primary education. It is our hope and a prayer, if resources can allow, and this is implemented, it will go a long way in addressing some of these challenges. Two, you're also aware that the commission also emphasized the issue of teaching in the local language. I think we learn from the known to unknown. Unfortunately, in Uganda, and Philbert Baguma knows this one, when parents take their children to school, okay, and they come back home speaking in local language, they say there's no value for money. There's no value for money. What the Ugandan parents want to hear, that if a child has gone to baby class or P1, okay, when he comes back home, he's speaking English. So we have cases where children have not yet mastered the mother tongue, okay, are being now forced to communicate in English. And you find a very big problem there as far as child development is concerned. Yes, we have many, actually some of them even at university. Somebody comes from Buganda here and they cannot communicate in Luganda. He's always mixing Luganda English, Luganda English. Ali mulago mu ddwaliro, bamu operatinze. What is that? Ali mulago mu ddwaliro, bamu operatinze. So these are the challenges. So ladies and gentlemen, the issue of well-trained teachers. You are aware we have now the national teacher policy. We are also trying to put in place the National Teacher Council. And the moment we have the National Teacher Council in place, most of these issues affecting teachers will be addressed. The issue of corporal punishment is the issue of attitude. Actually, some people believe that the ears of Africans are on their buttocks. So when you beat them, they hear whatever you are saying and they pay attention. So this is an issue of attitude. Because even some of us at our age, when you pick up a quarrel with your wife or your friend, you want to slap. You want to fight. So corporal punishment are a reflection of our society. Yes. The teachers come from that society. Even when the children at school are always fighting amongst themselves, even when they are not beaten by teachers. So we need to continuously mobilize our people to really address some of these things. So I want to pledge on behalf of the ministry that we shall look at these recommendations and see how best we can incorporate them in our worker plans, in our strategic plan, and in whatever we do to make sure that we improve the learning outcomes of our learners. And I'm happy that our our learner here said there is learning taking place. There is learning taking place. You see, it is like in a marriage. When you are as long as you are living under the same roof, even if you have misunderstandings, you cannot go out there and say, I'm not married. Because you have misunderstanding with your husband, yet you are living in the same house. So you cannot go out there and say, I'm not married. So we are aware of the challenges that we have. We are addressing them. And so learning is ongoing. And I'm happy that you chose a very good theme at our children learning recovery and the challenges for Uganda. So we shall recover and we shall also address the challenges. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Dr. Mugenyi. A round of applause for our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, you've done a fantastic job. You all had great submissions. And now I want to do the most painful thing, handing over power. I mean the mic.
Thank you very much, SP. Please, another hand clap for our wonderful panel. You may now take back your seats if you want, or stay on the front bench if you want. It's very fine. I think I've learned a lot from what I've heard from these panelists. And don't mind about the part where you'll do the talking. There is a session at the end where you'll be giving feedback, so you can put all that feedback in that. So I just want to talk about some 3-4 things I've heard. The first issue is the issue of education financing from the DO of OYAM. Clearly an issue. 6,000 shillings per child per term is a very interesting number. So how can we increase on the financing? And of course, this was stopped us from funding, co-funding in those schools. So how can 6,000 per term, right? Yeah, 18,000 per year. So how do we survive with that number? How can a child, earn, learn in that environment? Second issue, the question of teacher quality, raised by the teacher from Kabale, very important. Also the question of teacher-people ratio. How do you get learning if the quality of teaching or the teacher is not good enough? Very important. The third, that was raised by the lady, the pupil, which I think we didn't quite pick well, is the question of assessment. We didn't seem to understand what her issue was. She said children are learning, but assessment, they said things in ways that make the child fail. It is very simple. Tell me, if Modern had 10 mangoes and he has given 3 mangoes to Madame Biakuta, how many has he stayed with? That's very simple. Don't tell me X minus Y is equal to 9. What is the value of Y? I don't know why. Tell me the mangoes were 9. Modern has given 3 to Madame Biakutaga. How many has he stayed with? I will answer that one. So she raised the lady, the pupil raised an issue of assessment, and our questions are set. And I think it's an issue. And I think I saw somebody from UNEB. I'm sure we'll have some good takeaway from there. The other one raised by the commissioner is the question of feeding, school feeding. I went to Lango. I was invited by Fitch. Fitch is the current chair of Rally, Uganda. And the head teacher told us that during the wet season, children pick mangoes and come with them to eat. During the dry season, they come with cassava, raw cassava. So I asked, we later on went and had a parents meeting and asked them, it was 3 p.m. Asked them, from morning, have you eaten? Yes. If you hadn't eaten, would you be attending this meeting comfortably? They said no. So if you, the adult, cannot attend the meeting unless you have eaten, how is the child supposed to attend class if they have not eaten? And so there is an issue of feeding, especially for rural schools, that I think we need to think through. How can we make parents, because according to the Education Act, it's the role of the parents. How can we bring parents back to the center of school feeding and we stop delegating everything to government? Because some of that is actually our job as parents. So those are some of my big takeaways. I think we'll now have some entertainment, a short one, and then we shall call upon somebody to give a review of the whole session, and we'll be almost done. So I call upon the team, come and do the entertainment for a short few minutes.
Our children learning, loosely translated as abana basoma naye bayiga. According to the research made by Uwezo Uganda, there are signs of a gradual recovery from the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic-related school closures. In 2024, children aged 4 to 6 were making more progress in the early stages than they were in 2021.
What is your surname?
Surname. Josie.
Josie.
Josica, teacher.
Surname Josica.
Yes.
Okay. You young boy. What is your first name? Oh, good. Josica.
Yes, teacher.
This is your question. How many fingers do you see?
5, teacher.
5.
Yes, 5.
Josica.
5, 1.
Peter, why are you laughing? How many fingers do you see?
4.
Good. Can you clap for Peter? I've said to clap. Clap. You. This is another question for you. Jessica.
Yes, teacher.
1 plus 1. 1 plus 1.
11.
11.
11, teacher.
Peter, 1 plus 1. Good. Jessica, can you clap for Peter?
Yes.
Okay, I think it's time for break. Correct your book and go for break. After collect what's going in the book.
Influence of pre-primary education in reading and numeracy between students of these 2 years is strongly shown as there is an improvement, especially in numeracy.
What? Don't you see that I'm busy? Why don't you go?
For government-aided schools, the teacher-to-pupil ratio is 52:1.
Hey.
Approximately 12.8% of the teachers in government-aided schools are paid for privately from fees paid by parents.
Musomesa, mpulira bino mbikoye. Mpulira ekyana kintamye. Abaana baffe tubaweereza wano okweyigiriza bubbi. Ekyana kintamye. Kino kijambu.
Kijambu. Yes, come here. Kijambu. We teach fifth in our school, not lie down. Lie down like a lizard. No.
Chikube n'akalala.
A focus on nurturing values such as honesty among children early in life is critical, but also corporal punishment is still widely used in primary schools and households.
Thank you very much. That is the whole report in 5 minutes. Since Ugandans are very bad with reading, you've just read the whole report in 5 minutes. And in the report, Chosuga suffered the most. So sorry, Chosuga, for suffering, as you showed us the issues that are in the education space in Uganda. So thank you very much. So now I'll call upon my brother, Mr. Kaboyo, who is going to present the chair of the technical committee, technical advisory committee for Uwezo Uganda, to come and give us a recap of everything we have had from 2:15 p.m. before we come to the feedback session. So it's my pleasure now to call upon Mr. Kaboyo. Mr. Kaboyo is also another historical in the sector. And he's doing us great work in advocacy by heading the Education Advocacy Network of Uganda. And so it's certainly my pleasure to hand over the mic to you to recap everything that you've had since 2020.
Thank you so much, Modern. When you said historical, I thought the statement was continuing, but you left it halfway. The Honorable Minister of State for Primary Education, represented by Dr. Cleophas Mugenyi, the Chair of the Board of Uwezo Uganda, Professor Albert Lutalo Bosa, the Executive Director, Uwezo Uganda, Dr. Maria Goretti Nakabugo, Mr. Charles Drachebo, Head of the UNESCO Coordination Office in Uganda, professors in our midst, the academia, invited guests, heads of institutions, the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you so much. My name is Patrick Kaboyo, and I'm here to represent Dr. Albert Byamgisha, who is supposed to be here making the closing remarks. I will not do a recap, but I will make a brief summary because I know people who are here want to go back home. And I also don't want to be one of the evening issues that might cause boredom. So I will strictly give few remarks. One is to request all of us to join me in appreciating Dr. Goret and her team for the work well done. You'll agree with me that doing this study in those number of districts is expensive and also not an easy task. 50 districts would be ideal, but the number of districts covered, 29, calls for a lot of resources, both human and financial. And at this time, would like to thank the development partners that have made it possible that this study, which resonates very well with the NAPE report that was launched in a few months back, will go a great deal to improve learning outcomes for our country. The other issue I would like to present, ladies and gentlemen, is if you follow the report, There are those issues that came to do with student discipline. And if you are a parent of a teenager in any secondary school in Uganda, and you have received circulars from school administrators, you will agree with me that the challenges they report in the circular have to do with fighting, stealing, those vices that you saw. So the essence of that is the report that Uwezo has launched today should inform our parenting styles and maybe a paradigm shift to speak to our boys and girls that we have in our households. I should also thank the Basic Education Department of the Ministry of Education and Sports. The Ministry of Education and Sports, as Mr. Karema intimated, has a number of working groups, but the most organized working group is the Basic Education Working Group. And those who have not clapped, I think you have your own issues. The reason I'm saying this is that if you follow them, it's the only working group that hosts an annual departmental retreat. And when they retreat, they jointly plan. They jointly peer review themselves and they agree on the way forward, including both internally and outward looking. That's not a mean achievement, ladies and gentlemen. So with that, we know that as a team at Uwezo, this report is going to add on a lot of value. And you heard the minister did promise that they are going to take on the recommendations and implement them. I should also say that issues of teacher support through any mechanism should be seen in terms of support supervision and not inspection that is so scaring to cause those teachers to run away and to see inspection as a very bad thing. But through support supervision, we shall be able to turn the things into the way we want them. And at this time, I also want to behave as a teacher to teacher Gerald Nwamanya that the issue was teacher-pupil ratio and not teacher-pupil relationship, if I listened very well. I hope the rest had it, but in passing, it should have been teacher-pupil ratio. But I think because the panel was hot for you, so I'm giving support in that perspective. I should move towards conclusion by stating that yes, Uwezo report is with us. They have given it to us. So what next? For us, as the National Advisory Committee for Uwezo Uganda, is to call upon all of us to act. Let the action be seen or should manifest in terms of proper documentation of those issues to different authorities, proper reporting, lobbying authority, and good we have the authority here, but also doing advocacy, and where it requires sanctioning and rewarding those who are responsible should be accountable. And in this accountability, I would like to honestly thank the Uwezo Uganda Secretariat for the job well done. And I know that our online audience is also happy to be with us. Allow me on behalf of Dr. Albert Biamugisha to extend the appreciation to the online participants that are there. And with that, I thank you so much I thank you, Modern, for the good moderation and allow me to stop at this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaboyo, for representing the chair and giving us those closing reflections. What a way to end with a call to action to all of us. I think we all have a role to play. Thank you very much, Mr. Kaboyo. And as we come to the very end, we do want to hear from you. We have a few questions. Please share insights and give us some feedback about the event, about the launch, and what you have taken away from this. For the online audience, we've been able to share a link for you to be able to give the feedback to help us evaluate this whole event. And on each of the tables, we do have a QR code. Please scan it, but you can as well scan what is on the screen so that we hear from you. We know it has been a wonderful 2.5 hours, slightly plus, but it has been worthwhile on my side. It has been an honor co-emceeing with Modern, who I'm waiting for to come in front as we engage with the feedback. Thank you very much. Kindly share the feedback. Just get your phone, scan the QR code, or for those who are online, please go to the link. The questions will come straight to your phone, and we will be very grateful hearing from you. I thank you very much and hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Farida. Please hand clap for Farida for a job well done. So, as she has said, there is this thing here. You know, I'm a teacher of teachers. This thing here is the thing she's talking about. It's on your desk, table. In your phone, there is something called a QR code reader. So just put that QR code reader on the thing. You will get the 3 questions, very simple. Put the answers to that, or you can scan that one, these ones. You need this one. So scan them and then answer the 3 questions that are in there, and then we'll be done. And then I'll tell you how we shall finish. I'm just giving you some 3 minutes to just do that, because we need feedback on how, what you have learned, but also very importantly, how would you want these events to be run going forward? And if you don't have a QR code reader or you don't know how to use it, it is very fine. This is Uganda. You don't have to know everything. Just talk to your neighbor. The neighbor will fix you. Just talk to your neighbor, download the QR code reader, or that gentleman standing can help you with the QR things. He's the tech guy in the room. And then when the 3 minutes are done, I will just tell you how we shall finish this session. Have we at least downloaded or scanned the thing on the table? We can always answer the questions later, as long as you start the process of answering them while we are here. Wouldn't want to finish such a great event and the organizers have no feedback. Otherwise, they'll come and do the same mistakes next year. So it would be very important that we get those answers. Have we got it? Okay, some 2 more minutes for us to answer the 3 questions. Good. I want to believe that you have at least started on the process. I don't want to hold people for long. They might say the other noise, the MC is the one who kept us there and jam got us. So I just want to do the finishing of my job and Farida's job today by thanking you very much for sitting here for 3 hours and listening into how the sector is right now, what is working, what isn't working. And I believe from here, all of us, as Dr. Cleophas said, all of us have work. Very importantly, civil society that are in the room, if you can, please put up your hand. Civil society. Clearly, Uwezo has done their job. The next job is ours. You don't come sit in here and then, Uwezo does the brainy things, researching and giving us data and evidence. Our job is to go and execute. So from here, please, we have work to do as civil society, and I can see the chair of Really Uganda is here, so you know what how it starts after here. Uwezo can't invest money here and then we just go sit. There is work to be done, clearly. So just to make that very clear. I have 2 announcements. The first one is that when you see at the back, there are some very nice bottles. I love the bottles specifically. So there is cocktail at the end of this event. So please don't run away when we are done with the closing. So that is the first announcement. Please stay behind, connect, network, talk with somebody that I've not talked to for a long time. So that is the first announcement. The second announcement is that as per the program, there is a press conference, not a press conference, it's more of a people talking to the press, interviews. So I just want to read through the following names. After here, Nyakisiki, who is just at the back, will guide us where we're going to do that interview from. The names are, of course, Dr. Mary Gorishna Kabugo, Dr. Mgenyi Cleophas, Mr. Patrick Kaboyo, representing East African Advocacy Network, Honorable James Kabuketeria, who has already moved out, the DO for YAM, Reli Zumlamai, represent all of us in Reli, UNICEF represented, and then UNESCO represented, and lastly UNATU. Yes, he's still there. So after we are done with the closing, please, she's going to take you where you're going to do the interviews from, so that all this is captured at the end of it all. That would be the end. I would like that we stand up, and we are going to end, of course, in reverse order, starting with a prayer. The prayer will be followed by the East African anthem, and the East African anthem will be finally followed by the Ugandan anthem, and we'll be done. We do the networking and we do the press conference parallel. So, Mr. Simon Byamukama from Kabale, it's now your time to lead us in a closing prayer, and then we do the South African anthem and the Ugandan national anthem. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Protocol observed. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for everything that we have deliberated from here. We thank you for the wisdom and all the capabilities you've given us to produce this report, passing through all these processes. And Father, we continue to pray that your will be done. We know that what you've started, you will finish. And as we go back, Father, lead us to travel safely, lead us to go on and implement the recommendations of this report. And for what we're also going to receive in the cocktail, Father, we pray that you bless it, so that as we partake it, it energizes us to continue to doing your will. I pray all this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you. The East African anthem. Is the DJ still around? Uganda. He has decided that we stop there. So thank you very much. I think one other action point as Ugandans, we need to learn the East African anthem. So as we talk about children learning, we should also learn the East African anthem. Otherwise, we end up always messing ourselves up. So as I said, the rest of us stay around, enjoy the cocktail. There is great juice behind there. And then the 7 points that I read, go with Nyakisiki Judith to go and respond to some few questions from the media. She will tell you where that will be done. Thank you very much.